In this day and age of superheroes and remakes and sequels, how would you grade the industry in TV and film when it comes to social causes now?
How would you grade the films that are being made today according to social causes with all the superheroes?
Television and films.
Yeah.
About a major F.
Yeah.
I think, I have no objection to people being entertained. I think that's very important. But I think that we have to be thoughtful about how we entertain people. We have an epidemic of violence in the world,
Yeah.
but we also have an epidemic of violence in this country. And I think that part of it has to do with what people see on the screen. I have 2 kids and 2 grandchildren now. And I want them to be growing up in a safe and sane world, not just because they're white and not just because they have a degree of safety economically, but because it's important that we all have an opportunity in this world to realize who we are and enjoy the opportunity to share it with people.
Right. I agree.
Well, first of all, congratulations on doing what might be the first play, I think, for a cause that I can think of as pertinent to today as can be. I went to Antarctica in 2012 and I witnessed the global warming firsthand down there. I didn't realize I was witnessing it. But the penguins are in a lot of trouble because of the ice, the sea ice that's evaporated. There's 90 days less of sea ice each year. So, can you tell us a little bit about the CO2 and something from the play, or that you can pull out for us? That's, something we'd show on YouTube.
A little bit of information from the play about the CO2.
Sure. Well, let me first say, there are plays. You mentioned this is the only play that deals with a cause.
Mm-hmm.
I performed in a play called The Exonerated, which deals with the lives of 6 women and men who were tried, convicted, and sentenced to death in our country, only to later have been found to be innocent and freed. It wakes people up when they understand that this death machine we have going in this country actually makes mistakes, and not only incarcerates and threatens to kill, but actually kills innocent people. And there have been others, some really fine shows that are being done.
Thank you.
But as far as this one is concerned, I think it's urgently important for people to understand that they have a part to play in this drama of our ongoing struggle in terms of how we live and where we live, and the impact of the rising level of CO2. And it's as simple as that. A little thing like carbon dioxide in the air impacts, well, as I say in the play, one of the early pioneers of even asking the question about what's going on in our atmosphere discovered that CO2 was impermeable. CO2, they always thought gases were transparent and therefore anything could go through. CO2 is not. CO2 holds things down, and therefore CO2 in the atmosphere creates a kind of a blanket that causes a greenhouse effect. So the sun's radiation comes down, gives us heat, which is great, but when it bounces back up and can't get out, then it creates this warming sensation. And at first people didn't, the first guy who understood it thought it might be a good thing. He lived in, I think, in Scandinavia, and he thought, well, it's not going to be bad if it warms up here in the winter. But the idea that what we're doing, all of us are doing, is having an impact in building up this amount of CO2 in the atmosphere that could be, to put it dramatically, could kill us. It can and is creating great damage in different parts of the world today, as you've suggested your experience. shows in Antarctica. When people see these pictures of polar bears on ice floes that are now breaking off, it helps when people see that, because there's something sort of sweet and wonderful about a polar bear or a penguin. But we don't connect it to what we're doing in our lives in Phoenix or Sedona or Los Angeles or Dubuque. So we have to find ways to sort of bring people's awareness to the fact that the cars we're driving, the motorcycles we're riding, the food we're eating, the way in which we are comporting ourselves in what we've thought about as a society that's exciting and growing and full of human conveniences has to be examined so that the human conveniences don't end up destroying us.
Thank you.
We are over-consumers.
Oh, very much so, over consumers, yeah. And that's in a lot of different ways important for us to look at, because obviously there are people in other parts of the world that don't have what we have. There are people in other parts of the world that are now getting what we have because they want what we have, and they see it. Television has become this. I've always thought of television as the most powerful technology ever developed, and we're seeing versions of television now. It's, I suppose, digital recordings, but it's the same concept, which is this thing that is taking reality in one place and depositing it in a place that had no understanding about it. And so people are wearing jeans, people are wearing Levi's, people are wearing things in different parts of the world that we thought were, strictly and uniquely ours.
Right.
But people want to be America. People
Yes.
want to be Americans. American culture is impacting the world. And some of that is great, and some of that is not so great.
Mhm. Mhm.
Any question for
Yes.
you? So upon realization of a problem of this magnitude, it can be overwhelming to folks as to what they can actually do to help aid in the preservation of our planet. So upon your recommendation, where or how could you get started or involved in reducing our footprint, or at least how we destroy the earth?
How can we help reduce the footprint?
Yeah, great question. I think there are any number of ways we can convert to different power than gas and oil anytime we can. We're having an explosion now of electric cars, for example, which is a very positive thing. Some people aren't able to do that, though. So you have to, I think, be thoughtful about how you live and look into ways in which you can be more humane, more appropriate about the way in which you spend your time, the way in which you utilize things. Water is a big issue. I'm sure it is here. It certainly is in California. The overuse of water, the expectation that water is going to always be there, when in fact we're finding that it's not. And I was pleased here to see a note on some plants I just saw. Somebody said, this is reused water, do not drink it, it's not potable, but we're using it to help keep our plants growing. Well, I think, those sorts of things are great. There are small things that everybody can do, and there are big things that people need to do. But what I encourage people to do is not look to me as the expert, look to Greenpeace and look to the National Resources Defense Council and look to World Wildlife Fund and look to these outfits that are out there trying to make an impact on our understanding of the world and our understanding of how we interact with the world. There's this concept, I don't want to get too philosophical about it, but there's this Gaia concept that I think more people need to think about, which is that we are all part of one organism. And that is, so that not only the air we breathe, but the water we drink and what we, forgive me, excrete, all of those things have a kind of comeback effect.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is impacted by everything else. And it's wonderful on some levels when you think about the way that impacts, that affects our lives and how we affect other people's lives. But it's also hugely, it creates a huge responsibility when we become aware of that.
I sometimes wonder if people realize how full circle everything really is.
Oh, I think a lot of people don't. You know, we live in a time when there's an inclination to become very selfish and very self-oriented. I want is, one of the primary concerns, rather than what can I do, how can I interact with people in a way that's going to be beneficial to both of us. We're being raised in a culture now where, and it's always troubled me, that being rich is seen as an end in itself, and it's not. There's a lot of rich people out there who are just as frightened and just as hungry, needy, just as despairing as some of the people in the lower reaches of the society. But somehow somebody got the idea that wealth was going to make this solve all the problems. And what I'm finding is that those people who are most avaricious and most concerned about getting rich are most thoughtless about who they're hurting in the process.
It's been wonderful having you here.
Oh,
You
thank
have
you.
educated me, and I
Oh,
think
that's
everyone
nice.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for being so genuine.
Oh, that's nice, thank you.
Yeah. That's it for us, folks.
One more question.
One more? Oh, one more.
The 15 seconds spot.
Okay.
A question?
No. One question for you is, what does
sure.
this festival exactly mean to you? Very close to feel, but I want to know what this kind of platform allows you to do or say that's unique.
Well, this is an exciting opportunity, and it's an exciting opportunity to meet people I don't know, haven't met, and bring them something. I've been given the opportunity to present people with a gift, and that is this story. And that, to me, is one of the great aspects of being a performer, because if I just walked down the street and shook hands with everybody, which I'd love to do, I wouldn't be able to get that message out to as many. I was at a charity event one time in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I took a walk. I had my opportunity to have some time, so I just walked down the street. And this guy walked up to me and he said, "Hey, how the hell are you?" And he stuck out his hand, and I grabbed his hand and I shook his hand and I said, "I'm fine, how the hell are you?" And then he stepped back, kind of a shocked look on his face. He said, "Oh my God, I just realized I don't know you." I said, "It's all right. Thank you for the wonderful greeting." And he said, "How does it feel to have millions of people who have half a relationship with you?"
That's true.
And I thought, wow, man, I got to give that some thought. But it feels awfully good.